Hey, everybody, welcome to Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Galen here. Galen, it's great to connect with you, owner of InsuranceClaimsHQ, a property insurance attorney. All right. Good to connect with you. I'm a business coach, Galen, and what I do is I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. The podcast is a great tool for me to have guests like you to help people get unstuck. And so if they can take away one thing from our time together, then that'll be great. Your firm operates in more than 7 states, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, and Georgia, amongst others. And you've helped over 800 families rebuild their homes and businesses. You're a super lawyer, you're a rising star, and the bio goes on and on, but let's kind of dive in. For those, what are you doing for those 800 families, right? When you're talking about rebuilding their homes and their businesses, so for the person who's listening, who will know if they need you or not, what did you do for those 800 families?
Yeah. So when they wrote that bio with the 800 families, geez, that must be old. It must be like 2 years ago, because we're well over, I think, 98,000 at this point. But
you should probably tell your booking agent to update the bio.
Yeah, I'll let them know. You never know when they're going to check those things, right?
Yeah.
So but what we do is we come in after a disaster, or even after, like, not a major disaster, but an individualized disaster, like a fire or something. Could be a bigger thing like a hurricane. And what we do is work with families and businesses to figure out what their coverages are, what their rights are, and help them work with their insurance company to get paid enough that they can recover in full, not recover in part, not kind of get better, recover in full, rebuild their home, rebuild their business, reimburse themselves for those additional costs that they had as a result of that. Right. By the time we walk away, the only out-of-pocket cost should be the deductible for them.
Well, let's talk. Sorry, go ahead. No, but let's talk about. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done. But let's talk about the rights. I think when people are in panic mode, and it's hard to kind of know who to trust and who's telling you what your rights are and how to know what those rights are. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's really interesting in the United States, especially in almost any business. If I do business with you, John, or I do business with someone else listening to this right now, the typical relationship is I tell you what I'm going to do for you, and I also tell you how much you're going to owe me, and then you pay me that amount, or vice versa, right? We have the weirdest relationship with insurance in the United States, and that's intentional, where we pay an insurance company for something and they tell us they'll take care of us, right? But then when it's time for them to take care of us, you would then expect us to tell them what they need to pay us so we can be made whole. But that's not the way it works. Yeah. They tell you what they're going to give you, and they tell you to trust them. And there's tons of reasons for that, and it makes sense. We don't inherently want to believe that someone doesn't want to uphold their end of the bargain. That's uncomfortable for us. Yeah. And more importantly, we also are exposed to billions of dollars a year worth of advertising that kind of condition us to believe we'll be treated fairly. But whether we're going to be treated fairly or not is going to be a case-by-case situation. And often, in my experience, most people aren't treated fairly. Yeah. You have an insurance policy. It tells you what your coverages are. It tells you when you can be paid and when you cannot be paid. And that is an agreement between the parties. And all we are talking about at its very core, while there's a tons of ins and outs, the only real issue is, are you going to uphold your end of the agreement? Because I already upheld my end of the agreement by paying you.
Yeah. So so thank you for that. And as attorneys that focus on insurance claim, I mean, you're working on things from business interruption to flood damage, storm damage, pipe burst, wildfire. I mean, there's so many different elements of things. How do people know when to call you in the process?
Yeah, people kind of come to us a number of different places in the process. My personal opinion is the earlier they get to us, the more help we can give. Yeah. Candidly also, and people don't realize this about lawyers because they're so used to personal injury lawyers and how they charge. Most of the really good lawyers in my area charge very, very little at the very, very beginning. very little at the very beginning, because we're more interested in getting you in the right place. And it doesn't take that much time or that much effort to do that if we come in early. So I like early. However, I would say about 50 to 68% of our clientele come to us after they've been dealing with their insurance company for 2 to 6 months. And they're now starting to learn the hard way that that's not working out the way they thought that would.
Yeah. What's one thing that they should make sure that they don't do with their insurance company that would maybe impede them from working with you?
Yeah. As long as you're honest and straightforward, you're not going to necessarily be impeded from working with us, but be careful what you sign. Be careful what you commit to. I think people, again, when they're working with their insurance company, they want to be helpful. So they will be given sometimes documents. Oh, sign this. And it's a notarized form where they're swearing that this is the amount of the loss. But it's based off of the insurance company's evaluation, not yours. It's not that we can't work with you after that, but it is an uphill battle, because essentially you have sworn under oath that the amount of money the carrier gave you was enough money for you to rebuild your house, and you didn't know that. So be very careful with what you sign. Be very careful with commitments that you make. You do want to be cooperative, and you never, ever, ever want to lie. But you just want to keep your eyes open through the process, and that'll make working with us easier.
And how do people get to you? You know, because if I ever had an issue, the first person I call is my insurance agent, right? That seems to always be the first person that I call. And so how do people where do you fit in that flow? Does the insurance agent call you? Are you supposed to call you before an insurance agent? I think that's the complicated piece.
That's another interesting issue. So most of us are inclined to call our agent right after a loss. And that makes a ton of sense to me, because that's who your business relationship is with, and you trust that person. There's a few issues there. First of all, your insurance agent in almost every carrier around the country has no ability to get your claim paid whatsoever. They cannot make that decision. They can't even help. They can just send things. No one's listening to them and getting the claim paid. They might tell you they can help, but usually they cannot. So they're not helpful to call anyway. But here's the big insurance industry secret that people don't like to talk about. Yeah. Some agents are compensated based on what's called their loss ratio. So the more claims that are filed against an agent's book of business, the less of a payment that insurance agent will ultimately receive based on their book of business through the year. So and it's not every carrier and it's not every agent. I don't want to cast a broad brush, but there are a good, solid group of agents out there where it is in their financial interest to discourage you from filing a claim, discourage you from maximizing that claim, and encourage you, in fact, to walk away from a claim. I just got a call yesterday from a lawyer in Seattle, Washington, and he does criminal defense. And he told me that his agent convinced him not to open a claim 4 months ago. And now he is $80,000 in the hole on a loss that would have been covered, but his agent specifically steered him away from filing his claim. It made sense that he listened to his agent. That's who we trust. So do not call your agent first. If you have a loss, what you want to do is first you open the claim and report it. And then your next call should be to some insurance professional that really is in a position to help you. It should be either an attorney that does this work or a public adjuster that you feel like you can trust.
Yeah, good. That was a great review. Thank you for that. All right, quick speed round, Galen. You ready?
Yep.
Book that's had the biggest impact for you.
Oh, Never Split the Difference.
It's a great book. I actually was playing tennis with a buddy of mine yesterday, and he was listening to the book. Yeah. So that's a great one. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
You waste a lot of time by looking backwards. The only thing you can do is learn from your mistakes and keep going.
Yeah, I love it. And finish this sentence. One thing that everybody needs to do. I know you've said this already, but let's recap it. The first thing everybody needs to do if they're in a situation where there is some element of a disaster is
get really good help that you can trust and rely on.
Good. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you.
Yeah, our ideal client is just anyone that suffered a loss that would like guidance. It's not about the size of the loss. It's not about the magnitude. If you have suffered a loss and you need help or even just informal guidance, we want to hear from you. And you can reach us on our website, www.insuranceclaimhq.com. We're also on all the various social media. And in fact, we have a 24/7 number, which is 844-CLAIM-84.
All right. Well, Galen, I appreciate your insight. It's always good talking to people that we can, get perspective that I think sometimes people aren't necessarily thinking as part of the continuum of what they need to do. And so inserting new information, I think community, as we talk about in every show, what's one thing you can do to get unstuck, and maybe writing down Galen's information if you ever need it and you're in a disaster, hopefully you're not, is another avenue of another resource and another avenue to go down that you may not have thought before. So Galen, I appreciate you being on the show and sharing all of your wisdom. And if there's anything from a coaching perspective anybody needs, please reach out to jondwoskin.com. And Galen, it was great. Thanks so much. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks for having me, John.